Imagine having only 100 days between killing frosts to grow an entire year's worth of food for your family. While modern gardeners panic over short growing seasons, Vikings mastered the art of strategic planting that produced maximum nutrition in minimum time. Today, we're discovering 12 fast-growing vegetables and the brilliant system that guaranteed survival in the world's harshest climate. Radish, Raphanus sativus, the 25-day wonder. Let's start with the vegetable that proves Vikings understood speed better than any modern gardener. Radishes were the sprint champions of the Viking garden, going from seed to harvest in just 25 to 30 days. That's faster than most people can break a bad habit, yet Vikings were pulling nutritious food from the ground. Archaeological evidence from Viking settlements across Scandinavia shows radish seeds in storage pits and cooking areas, proving these weren't just occasional crops, they were strategic staples. Vikings planted radishes, Raphanus sativus, immediately after the last spring frost, knowing they'd have fresh food on the table before any other crop was ready. What made radishes absolutely brilliant for the 100-day strategy was their ability to fill the hunger gap, that desperate period in late spring when stored winter food was running low and new crops hadn't matured yet. While other medieval Europeans were starving through April and May, Vikings were crunching fresh radishes that provided vitamin C, potassium, and that peppery bite that made bland porridge tolerable. Vikings planted radishes in rows spaced just 6 inches, 15 centimeters apart, maximizing every square foot of precious garden space. The roots were ready to harvest when they reached 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters in diameter, though Vikings often let them grow to 2 inches, 5 centimeters for maximum nutrition. Modern science has confirmed what Vikings knew instinctively. Radishes contain compounds called glucosinolates that support liver function and boost immunity, exactly what communities needed after vitamin-deficient winters. The leaves weren't wasted either. Vikings cooked radish greens like spinach, essentially getting 2 vegetables from one planting. It's like buying a car and getting a free motorcycle. Maximum value from minimum investment. Turnip, Brassica rapa, the 45-day powerhouse. Next comes the vegetable that Vikings considered essential insurance against famine. Turnips brassica. Rapa matured in just 40 to 50 days, providing both nutritious roots and edible greens that could sustain families when everything else failed. Archaeological excavations at Viking settlements from Norway to Iceland have uncovered abundant turnip remains, and for good reason. This cold, hardy champion could be planted in early spring and again in late summer, giving Vikings 2 complete harvests within their 100-day window. That's like getting paid twice for the same work. What made turnips absolutely perfect for Viking food security was their incredible versatility. The roots could be eaten fresh, stored in root cellars for months, or even left in the ground under snow and harvested throughout winter. Vikings planted turnips in rows spaced 12 inches, 30 centimeters, apart, with individual plants thinned to 4 inches, 10 centimeters, spacing once they sprouted. The nutritional profile explains why Vikings prioritized turnips. These white or purple roots are packed with vitamin C, fiber, and complex carbohydrates that provide sustained energy. Medieval Norse communities understood that turnips prevented scurvy and digestive problems, though they didn't have the scientific vocabulary to explain why. Vikings consumed turnips raw, sliced thin, and added to stews, or mashed with butter and herbs. The greens were harvested young and cooked like spinach, providing fresh vitamins even before the roots were ready. Modern nutritional analysis shows turnip greens contain more calcium than milk and more vitamin A than carrots. Vikings were getting superfood nutrition from a crop that grew itself in terrible conditions. Here's what's remarkable. Turnips actually taste better after a light frost, as cold temperatures convert starches to sugars. Vikings had figured out that late-season turnips planted in midsummer and harvested after first frost were sweeter and more tender than spring crops. They'd essentially discovered natural food processing without any technology. Leaf lettuce, Lactua sativa, the 30-day salad factory. Now, let's discuss a vegetable that proves Vikings ate far better than most people imagine. Leaf lettuce Lactua sativa was ready to harvest in just 30 to 40 days, providing fresh, crisp greens that made Viking meals surprisingly sophisticated. Archaeological evidence from Viking-age sites shows lettuce seeds in garden areas, indicating deliberate cultivation rather than wild harvesting. Vikings grew loose-leaf varieties that could be harvested continuously by picking outer leaves while the plant kept producing, essentially creating a renewable salad bar that lasted the entire growing season. What made lettuce brilliant for the 100-day strategy was its cool weather preference. Vikings planted lettuce in early spring when soil temperatures reached just 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Celsius, weeks before warm weather crops could survive. They spaced plants 6 inches, 15 centimeters, apart in rows 12 inches, 30 centimeters apart, creating dense plantings that maximized yield from limited space. Vikings understood something modern gardeners often forget. Lettuce planted in succession every 2 weeks provides continuous harvest rather than one overwhelming crop that spoils before you can eat it. By planting small amounts repeatedly throughout the season, Viking families had fresh greens from late April through September. The nutritional benefits were significant. Lettuce provides vitamin K for blood clotting, vitamin A for vision, and folate for cell function. For communities that spent long winters eating preserved meat and grain, fresh lettuce delivered essential nutrients that prevented deficiency diseases. Vikings ate lettuce fresh, often dressed with vinegar made from fermented grain or honey, and mixed with wild herbs to create complex flavors. It's like having a gourmet salad bar in your backyard, except it grows faster than you can eat it. Spinach, Spinacia oleracea, the 40-day iron source. Here comes the vegetable that gave Viking warriors their legendary strength: spinach spinacia. Oleracea matured in just 40 to 50 days, delivering more iron, calcium, and vitamins than almost any other fast-growing crop. While spinach originated in Persia, it reached Scandinavia through medieval trade routes, and Vikings immediately recognized its value. This cold, hardy green could withstand light frosts and actually tasted sweeter after cold exposure, making it perfect for early spring and late fall planting. Vikings planted spinach seeds directly in the ground as soon as soil could be worked in spring, spacing them 3 inches, 7.6 centimeters, apart in rows 12 inches, 30 centimeters, apart. The plants grew rapidly in cool weather, producing tender leaves that could be harvested when just 3 inches, 7.6 centimeters, tall for baby greens, or left to mature to 6 inches, 15 centimeters, for full-sized leaves. What made spinach absolutely essential for Viking nutrition was its iron content. Modern analysis shows spinach contains 2.7 milligrams of iron per 100 grams. Not as much as Popeye claimed, but still significant for communities that needed every nutritional advantage. The vitamin C in spinach actually helps the body absorb iron more efficiently, creating a complete nutritional package. Vikings consumed spinach fresh in early harvests, then cooked it into soups and stews as plants matured. The leaves could also be blanched and preserved in brine for winter use, extending the harvest season beyond the 100-day window. It's like having a multivitamin that grows in your garden and actually tastes good. Peas, Pisum sativum, the 60-day protein bomb. Next comes the crop that proves Vikings understood protein nutrition centuries before modern science discovered amino acids. Peas, Pisum sativum, matured in 60 to 70 days, providing complete plant protein that could sustain families without constant meat consumption. Archaeological evidence from Viking settlements shows abundant pea remains in storage areas and cooking sites. These weren't just garden vegetables. They were strategic protein sources that allowed communities to survive when hunting failed or livestock couldn't be slaughtered. Vikings grew both shelling peas for dried storage and snap peas for fresh eating. The plants were sown in early spring as soon as the ground thawed, because peas actually prefer cool weather and stop producing when temperatures exceed 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 24 degrees Celsius. Vikings planted peas 2 inches, 5 centimeters, apart in rows spaced 18 inches, 46 centimeters apart, often using simple stick trellises to support the climbing vines. What made peas absolutely revolutionary was their nitrogen-fixing ability. Vikings didn't understand the science, but they observed that soil where peas grew produced better crops the following year. Modern science now knows that pea roots host bacteria that convert atmospheric nitrogen into soil nutrients. Vikings were essentially fertilizing their gardens while growing food. The nutritional profile explains why peas were so valued. They provide complete protein with all essential amino acids, plus fiber, vitamins A and C, and minerals like iron and potassium. Fresh peas could be eaten raw or cooked, while dried peas stored for years and could be ground into flour or cooked into hearty porridges. Vikings harvested peas at multiple stages: young pods for snap peas, mature peas for fresh eating, and fully dried peas for winter storage. It's like having 3 different crops from one planting, maximizing return on limited growing time. Kale, Brassica oleracea, the 50-day superfood. Now let's discuss the vegetable that modern health fanatics pay premium prices for: completely unaware that Vikings were growing superior varieties over 1,000 years ago. Kale brassica, oleracea var. Acephala was ready to harvest in just 50 to 60 days, providing more nutrition per square foot than almost any other crop. Archaeological evidence from Norse settlements shows kale was extensively cultivated, and linguistic evidence proves it was culturally significant. The Old Norse word kal directly translates to kale and appears in place names across Scandinavia. What made kale absolutely perfect for the 100-day strategy was its incredible cold tolerance. Vikings could plant kale in early spring and harvest continuously through fall, even after hard frosts that killed other vegetables. The plants actually became sweeter after frost exposure, as cold temperatures converted starches to sugars. Vikings planted kale seeds 12 inches, 30 centimeters, apart in rows spaced 18 inches, 46 centimeters, apart, creating sturdy plants that could withstand harsh weather. They harvested outer leaves continuously while the plant kept producing from the center, essentially creating a renewable food source that lasted months from a single planting. Modern nutritional analysis reveals why kale was so valuable. It contains more vitamin C than oranges, more calcium than milk, and more iron than beef, pound for pound. Vikings were getting complete nutrition from a plant that required minimal care and thrived in terrible conditions. Vikings consumed kale fresh in early season, then cooked it into soups and stews as leaves matured and became tougher. The leaves could also be blanched and preserved in brine, or dried for winter use. It's like having a pharmacy and grocery store growing in your garden simultaneously. Cabbage, Brassica oleracea var. Capitata, the 70-day storage champion. Here comes the vegetable that made Viking winter survival possible. Cabbage Brassica oleracea var. Capitata matured in 70 to 90 days, providing dense, nutritious heads that could be stored for months, or fermented into sauerkraut that lasted years. Archaeological excavations across Viking territories have uncovered abundant cabbage remains, and historical records confirm it was a dietary staple. Vikings grew early varieties that matured quickly, and storage varieties that developed dense heads, perfect for long-term preservation. What made cabbage absolutely essential for the 100-day strategy was its incredible storage capability. A properly stored cabbage head could last 4 to 6 months in a cool root cellar, essentially extending the harvest season through the entire winter. Vikings planted cabbage in early spring, spacing transplants 18 inches, 46 centimeters, apart in rows 24 inches, 61 centimeters apart. The nutritional density explains why cabbage was so prioritized. Fresh cabbage provides vitamin C that prevents scurvy, vitamin K for blood clotting, and fiber for digestive health. When fermented into sauerkraut, the vitamin C content actually increases, and beneficial probiotics develop that support gut health and immunity. Vikings consumed cabbage fresh in summer, stored whole heads in root cellars for winter, and fermented massive quantities into sauerkraut that could sustain families when nothing else was available. The fermentation process was simple. Shredded cabbage, salt, and thyme created a preserved food that was more nutritious than the fresh vegetable. Modern science has confirmed what Vikings understood instinctively. Fermented cabbage contains compounds that fight inflammation, support digestion, and boost immunity. Vikings had created a superfood preservation system without any modern technology. Beets, Beta vulgaris, the 55-day dual-purpose crop. Next comes a vegetable that proves Vikings never wasted anything. Beets, Beta vulgaris, matured in 55 to 70 days, providing both nutritious greens and sweet, earthy roots that could be eaten fresh or stored for months. Archaeological evidence from Viking settlements shows beet cultivation was widespread, and for good reason. This hardy crop tolerated poor soil, required minimal care, and delivered maximum nutrition from limited garden space. Vikings planted beet seeds in early spring, spacing them 3 inches, 7.6 centimeters, apart in rows 12 inches, 30 centimeters apart. As seedlings emerged, they thinned plants to 6 inches, 15 centimeters, spacing, and consumed the thinned greens as early salad. The remaining plants developed roots that could grow to 3 inches, 7.6 centimeters, in diameter. What made beets brilliant for Viking nutrition was their dual harvest. The greens could be picked young for fresh eating, providing vitamins A and C plus minerals like iron and calcium. The roots developed sweet, earthy flavor and could be eaten fresh, pickled, or stored in root cellars for winter use. Modern nutritional analysis shows beets contain unique compounds called betalains that support liver detoxification and reduce inflammation. Vikings were getting medicinal benefits along with their nutrition, though they simply knew beets made them feel better after long winters of preserved food. Vikings consumed beet greens fresh or cooked like spinach, and prepared roots by boiling, roasting, or pickling in vinegar. The natural sweetness made beets popular additions to stews and porridges, adding flavor and nutrition to simple meals. Arugula. Eruca vesicaria, the 30-day flavor explosion. Now let's discuss a vegetable that proves Viking cuisine was far more sophisticated than most people imagine. Arugula eruca vesicaria matured in just 25 to 35 days, providing peppery, flavorful greens that transformed bland meals into culinary experiences. While arugula originated in Mediterranean regions, it reached Scandinavia through trade routes, and Vikings immediately recognized its value. This fast-growing green could be planted in succession every 2 weeks, providing continuous harvest throughout the growing season. Vikings planted arugula seeds densely, spacing them just 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters, apart in rows 6 inches, 15 centimeters, apart. The plants grew rapidly in cool weather, producing tender leaves that could be harvested when just 2 inches, 5 centimeters, tall for baby greens, or left to mature to 6 inches, 15 centimeters, for full flavor. What made arugula perfect for the 100-day strategy was its cool weather preference and bolt resistance. Vikings could plant arugula in early spring and late summer, getting 2 complete harvests from the same garden space. The peppery flavor came from compounds called glucosinolates, the same beneficial chemicals found in other brassicas that support liver function and immunity. Vikings consumed arugula fresh, often mixed with milder lettuces to balance the peppery bite. The leaves were also added to soups and stews in the final minutes of cooking, preserving their flavor and nutritional content. It's like having fresh ground pepper growing in your garden, except it's also a complete vegetable. Bok choy, Brassica rapa subsp. Chinensis, the 45-day Asian import. Here comes evidence that Vikings were more connected to global trade than most people realize. Bok choy Brassica rapa subsp. Chinensis reached Scandinavia through eastern trade routes, and Vikings quickly adopted this fast-growing green that matured in just 45 to 60 days. Archaeological evidence suggests Asian brassicas were cultivated in medieval European gardens, brought by traders traveling the Silk Road. Vikings recognized bok choy's value immediately. It grew faster than cabbage, tolerated cold weather, and provided both tender leaves and crisp stems. Vikings planted bok choy in early spring, spacing plants 6 inches, 15 centimeters, apart in rows 12 inches, 30 centimeters, apart. The plants developed rapidly, producing harvestable greens in as little as 30 days for baby bok choy or 45 to 60 days for full-sized heads. What made bok choy brilliant for Viking gardens was its complete edibility. Unlike cabbage, where you discard outer leaves, every part of bok choy was consumed: tender leaves, crisp stems, and even the flowering shoots if plants bolted. Vikings were getting maximum nutrition from minimum garden space. Modern nutritional analysis shows bok choy is loaded with vitamins A, C, and K, plus minerals like calcium and potassium. The crisp texture and mild flavor made it perfect for fresh eating or quick cooking, and Vikings added it to soups and stews where it retained texture better than other greens. Mustard greens, Brassica juncea, the 40-day spice garden. Next comes a vegetable that proves Vikings understood flavor complexity centuries before modern cuisine: mustard greens. Brassica juncea matured in 40 to 50 days, providing peppery, pungent leaves that added intense flavor to simple meals. Vikings cultivated mustard both for the greens and for seeds that could be ground into the condiment we know today. The plants grew rapidly in cool weather, producing tender leaves that could be harvested continuously by picking outer leaves while the center kept producing. Vikings planted mustard seeds in early spring, spacing them 6 inches, 15 centimeters, apart in rows, 12 inches, 30 centimeters, apart. The plants tolerated light frosts and actually developed better flavor in cool conditions, making them perfect for early and late season planting. What made mustard greens essential for Viking nutrition was their incredible vitamin content. Modern analysis shows they contain more vitamin K than any other common vegetable, plus significant amounts of vitamins A and C. The peppery flavor came from glucosinolates, beneficial compounds that support detoxification and immunity. Vikings consumed young mustard greens fresh in salads, cooked mature leaves like spinach, and allowed some plants to flower and produce seeds for grinding into condiments. It's like growing your own spice rack while simultaneously harvesting nutritious vegetables. Green onions, Allium fistulosum, the 60-day flavor foundation. Finally, we come to the vegetable that formed the flavor foundation of Viking cuisine. Green onions, Allium fistulosum, also called scallions or bunching onions, matured in 60 to 80 days and provided intense onion flavor without requiring the long growing season of bulb onions. Archaeological evidence from Viking settlements shows abundant allium remains, proving onions were dietary staples rather than occasional seasonings. Vikings grew bunching onions that produced multiple shoots from a single planting, essentially creating renewable flavor sources that lasted the entire season. Vikings planted onion sets or seeds in early spring, spacing them 2 inches, 5 centimeters, apart in rows 12 inches, 30 centimeters apart. The plants grew rapidly, producing harvestable green tops in as little as 60 days. Vikings could harvest entire plants or cut tops and allow roots to regrow, getting multiple harvests from single plantings. What made green onions absolutely essential was their ability to transform bland, preserved foods into palatable meals. After months of eating stored grain and dried meat, fresh onion flavor made winter meals tolerable. The plants also provided vitamin C, sulfur compounds that support immunity, and antimicrobial properties that helped preserve other foods. Vikings consumed green onions fresh, chopped and added to soups and stews, or preserved in vinegar for winter use. Every part was edible: green tops, white stems, and even the small bulbs that developed at the base. These 12 fast-growing vegetables represent more than just Viking gardening knowledge. They're a complete food security system designed for the world's harshest conditions. These same hardy, fast-growing crops are available through any seed supplier, waiting for us to rediscover the agricultural genius that sustained history's most successful explorers. If you enjoyed raiding the past with us, then give a nod to your inner Viking. Pillage that like button and subscribe for more journeys into Midgard living.